This is Sutek. Tank counting. As you may know, my first tenet in my Sen Shadow is the concept of awareness, not only of what your tank is able to do, what's going on around you, understanding the map, but also knowing where the enemy is. Tank counting is a vital part of understanding what's happening in the battle and how to react. So what's tank counting? Tank counting is actually taking the time to look at your attack map and figure out how many tanks have been identified. You know that there are 15 tanks at the start of the game. In this particular match, you'll notice that already we have spotted at least 4 of the enemy tanks in this fight. More tanks are now being spotted. We now know more about the enemy's deployment. We are now up to 4 tanks that have been identified, one of which has been killed. We also know that there are at least 6 on the other side of the map. Why is this important? If you look at the map from our standpoint, we have lost a TD. There are only 2 tanks in Mud Valley. The remaining 12 members of our team are on the other side of the map. There should only be, now that you do the count and you look at the total kills, there should only be at most 6 tanks in front of them between the cap and victory. So as they're overwhelming the map on this side with their 6 tanks going through Mud Valley, that makes 10 total tanks have been accounted for. 4 killed, 6 in the valley. Only 5 tanks now are in front of them. Yet, look at what happens. The team stops. The team stops in the village. 3 more of the remaining 5 have now been identified. They now know that they have overwhelming odds, and yet, again, look at the map. They spread out. They scatter. They're not working together. That lemming train that had started at the beginning of the match has now dispersed. So some people are going back to defend the cap. Other people are sitting in the village. Still others are kind of moving to the enemy cap. In this particular situation, when your cap is threatened, you either need to go back and defend your cap, or use your lemming train, push forward into the enemy cap, and overwhelm them with your numbers. My team decided to do none of the above. A couple of tanks went forward and then stopped at the J and K7 line and tried to snipe their way into the cap, which is bad tactics. You have overwhelming numbers. They can't kill as many as you have. You need to move forward. And as I scroll through, you'll see tanks just basically running hither and yon. There was a leopard who, for whatever reason, decided he was going to run outside the village. Here's that Type 59 who's trying to take sniper shots at distance. Okay, so the cap has now been taken by the enemy. They're beginning to count. If you are still in the village, if you are even fast enough to get back to that cap, you need to get back. It's too late now. We don't have the numbers like we did. Go back, defend the cap, and restart your drive. But again, driven into inaction by an inability to understand what's going on, my team does the exact opposite. They sit back and they try to snipe their way through it. Now, we did do 1 reset, but look at the number of tanks. There's 1 tank in the cap. That means there's at least 4 or 5 outside of the cap able to provide cover. Sitting back and sniping at this point is relatively pointless. We're not accomplishing anything. Now look at the map. We went from having a 3 or 4 tank kill lead to being dead even. Most of their tanks are in the north of the map. Yet, we still have 2, a heavy and a medium, trying to snipe into their cap, while we have 4 tanks sitting back, trying desperately to reset the cap. Now, looking at this Löwe, he's too far back to be effective. He has wonderful armor. He could drive into the cap, but he chooses to move forward, not from cover to cover, move forward in the open, and basically is getting eaten alive. Meanwhile, the medium, who's with him, is not really providing any assistance. So here we go. We're just watching the team fall apart. There isn't much else to say, except if they had counted the tanks and they had realized what was in front of them, instead of just acting, we might have taken the cap, or they might have gone back and defended the cap, but they chose to do neither, and their inaction and failure to drive caused us to lose this match, and essentially lose it to 6 tanks. Thank you for watching.